fact that we were a part of SINE, and being a part of SINE actually, we had visibility from the very beginning. So, once you start developing things like these, and a lot of reporters keep coming to SINE, and whenever they come to SINE, they will talk about कि ये interesting technology पे चल रहा है यहाँ पे काम, ये interesting technology पे चल रहा है. So when that happens, you automatically end up talking about what you were saying. And to give you an example, because we had made this early prototype of ours, and we had actually won a competition alongside IIT Bombay. In 2008, we had won this competition alongside MIT, and we had made this. We sort of made the first fully indigenous autonomous UAV in the country in 2008, and in that competition, along with IIT Bombay, we had won, come first with MIT US. So that got a little bit of publicity and press, and because we were doing this as a joint activity with IIT Bombay had some projects with DRDO. So DRDO guys realized that somebody can make this technology in the country as well, and they were at that time struggling with trying to implement or get technology from outside and actually implement on that. So basically you have this thing called an autopilot on every UAV. So that autopilot technology is basically the core of making something autonomous. If that is not great, or if you can't really work with it a lot or create algorithms that are good enough to fly something, you're never going to get your thing off the ground, right? So luckily they were struggling with it, and we figured out how to do it. So the moment we won that competition, people started to basically ask us that, can you give this to us, can you give these products to us, and we can use them to build our. So that was one part, and then this press happened, and I think around that time some Mumbai Mirror had come down to IIT Bombay to do a session, and they picked up our story and they printed it, and it's very interesting. Diya Mirza read that story that time, and she told Raju Irani that you were looking for innovations for your movie. Why don't you look at what these guys are doing? That's how our system got into. That gave us a lot of visibility because we were a part of their credits as well. People called us saying that we saw you were a part of the credits and all that. And meanwhile, we had done a lot of demonstrations as well. So once you make a technology, people will ask you to demonstrate. The best thing you can do is to create and give flawless demonstrations. If you can give flawless demonstrations, nothing like that sells your technology. I mean, I remember in 2009 we were attending this Dev Expo. We had a patch area which was maybe at the very best double this size, and blatantly without thought of safety or whatever, with just the confidence we had on our technology, we were doing demonstrations. And the amount of crowd we pulled at that time was just phenomenal. I mean, that Def Expo, every news coverage had basically Netra on its photo. No other system was there, but Netra was there because it was flying and it was creating a lot of crowd around. So you do demonstrations, and we've literally, in our country, we built the market grounds up. Because we used to do these demonstrations, people saw them, they asked us to come and do demonstrations in their own areas. We went there. In the past few years that we've been trying to promote these, we've done possibly more than 300, 400 demonstrations. We've done demonstrations from naval ships, from small Gemini boats, which are perhaps two or three times my arm length width, and from those mobile platforms in mid-water, we are basically taking off our systems, landing them back, recovering them on those Geminis. We've flown in Ladakh, we've flown in Andaman, we've flown in Tripura, we've flown in Suratgarh in Rajasthan. We've covered the entire length and breadth of the country. We've covered some of the most difficult terrains, and we've taken some risks which you may arguably debate whether those risks should have been taken or not, but we've gone into deep Naxal areas to do our demonstrations. We've gone to the border areas. Currently my team is actually there on the border, where you have heard reports in the past few days that live shelling is happening from the Pakistan side. So there are some, basically you have to be brazen about your technology, you have to be, and because you are brazen about it and you are doing it so comfortably, the user also starts feeling it's not as complicated. Literally, we've had our users thinking he a toy. And that's amazing because the user basically doesn't have to do anything. He just comes there, he types in a few waypoints, he clicks on take off, the system takes off, it goes wherever you program it to go, and anything happens in between, your ground station is destroyed, your user forgets to sort of get the system back, he forgets that there's basically a battery out there and it may get depleted, it takes care of itself. It will take care of that by a fail-safe. Battery fail-safe is there, communication fail-safe is there. GPS चला गया तो वो फिर भी लैंड कर जाएगा, wind तेज होगी तो लैंड कर जाएगा. तो you think of like so many modes and so many possibilities in which the system may go bad, and you take that out from the user, you make it so easy to use for the user that ahead of a lot of their other modernization programs, you are sure all aware कि मतलब नहीं है लोगों के पास में basic equipment नहीं है but UAVs उड़ा रहे हैं. और कौन उड़ा रहे हैं? 10वीं पास लोग UAVs उड़ा रहे हैं. 10th pass people are actually flying UAVs right now. So that's the level of technology we were able to deliver that inspired them to literally induct them as soon as possible. And it's a very unfortunate situation, but our environment internally is such that there is a lot of desperation for creating these solutions. They want to induct things that will show people that they're at least doing something about it. And I think it only helps the fact that using our systems, they're able to spot Naxals. They're actually able to see them, they're actually able to track them and do a lot of things. So that ultimately helps. That builds your case further and that gets you repeat order. So yeah, I mean, if you create, so that's one way, you create visibility and you're able to attract talent. The other way is you actually write to people. It's a slightly long-winded way, but you write to people, you send them a brochure and whatnot, and eventually one of them will get excited कि यार ये बात तो ठीक बोल रहे हैं, शायद कुछ होगा इसके अंदर, देखते हैं क्या है. Because people don't mind exploring is something I've realized, and they will call you at least for an introduction. So that will help your case. It's not that difficult. I mean, if you think about it logically, it's not that.
When you started your company, was there any competition in the market?
In India, none. But there was one company that was making UAVs, but wasn't making our kind of UAVs. So that helped us. We focused on these platforms that, but it's really, frankly speaking, after us, a lot of people have started in the same space. So you should think about how they would have thought about it. It's about creating a value that, or plugging a gap that I'm not looking at. Evidently, I'm not doing everything that could be possibly done in the field. And if somebody has identified large enough opportunity, a niche opportunity that has not yet been tapped by us, then they can go ahead and exploit that opportunity. So it's not necessary that you have to be the first mover in the space to build a business. You can be the third, fourth, fifth. Sometimes the last mover wins the race. So you never know. Like Google wasn't the first search engine.
And so when you started, like, what was your target market then? Like, was it from the start your target market was military and everything else, or was it something different?
Actually, it's a very complicated question because we never started with UAVs. We actually started with making, I'm not sure if a lot of you have heard of this company that used to make mechanical charging solutions for mobile phones. So we basically used to make energy products initially. We used to make this handheld hand cranking charging solution for portable electronics at that time. So that's what we started with. So our market was essentially rural India at that time, which turned out to be, had no capacity to buy it, and it was basically urban consumers who were buying it for emergency purposes. But yeah, I mean, for UAVs we were focused on defense. Yeah.
A question regarding the business model. So how do you organize manufacturing of the drones? Second,
How do we organize manufacturing?
Manufacturing of those. So you also manufacture these drones?
Yes, we do.
Also development and also the software part. And second question is, how scalable do you consider your business model? Because now it seems to me that you are offering only like service-based products with a high amount of utilization, like different setups, and that makes it really hard to scale. So could you
Very interesting question. First, I'll address the manufacturing. So first I'll answer the manufacturing part. We do manufacture all of it ourselves. Albeit manufacturing in our case is assembling the systems. We don't manufacture too many components ourselves. So for example, if you consider autopilot as a sub-component of our system, autopilot we integrate from the chip level. We get the PCB manufactured somewhere, we get all the components and we actually assemble it in-house. But there are several other components like the camera, we get the camera from outside. So it's a mixed bag. You know, there are some things that you will manufacture and there are some things you will assemble by getting it from other people. So that is the first part. And that's a fairly scalable process because since you don't have machines tapping something out day in and day out, it's a fairly simple, it's a manual assembly. You basically hire people who will be able to do your soldering and assembling and all of that. And you're able to do that. The second part is also very important is that there are a large number of applications that I mentioned upfront, right? But if you look at it, the system is exactly the same for all of those applications. I am not creating a different system. So it's not like I'm creating a different product. My product is standardized, and I'll give you a glimpse of my product. This is our product. It's the same product that we've sold again and again for a different application, because if I say the application is counterinsurgency, but the task is the same, that you have to go in jungles, you have to fly something so that you can get an aerial view, and because you're getting an aerial view, you're covering a wider area, you're able to move faster, you're able to scan your territory and terrain. And that's exactly what you will do at the border as well, right? You will go there, you will take off, and you will be able to grab better imagery deeper inside the enemy terrain and all that. So the product is the same, and that is why it is scalable. The end users may be whatever the end user wants, but ultimately it's not even mobile. It's like a place it anywhere in the world, 3D CCTV camera or something like that. They'll just relay live images to a control station, and you can take decisions based on what it is taking. So yeah, so that way it is fairly scalable. I mean, the procurement numbers are crazy, and each piece goes for a big bomb, so that helps.
What ahead?
Yeah?
What is next?
What is next for us is, we feel, and I think it's ultimately going to happen in the entire surveillance industry, that eventually platforms will become like how CCTV cameras are. Right? I mean, you get a CCTV camera diamond, you get CCTV cameras diamond as it is. I mean, किसी से भी आप मंगा लोगे. लेकिन what you can do with that, how much information can you extract autonomously from that, is something that is not yet at a very advanced level. And eventually, you will see that these systems are ubiquitous, everybody is using them. But you will also find that slowly and slowly the technology is moving towards taking the human out of it completely. And what that means is that it should be able to, and that's the flying side, that take off on its own, it should be able to land on its own, it should be able to charge itself on its own, or maybe it never needs charging, or whatever it is. And whatever imagery is coming, nobody has to sit on a computer to actually view that imagery to grab information. You know, eventually all of that information will get automatically filtered through whatever has been programmed, and you will get alerts. If there is an intruder, you will get alert. If there is a vehicle, you will get a different kind of alert. So every situation will have a different alert, but yeah, it will create that alert also. So that's the future in terms of technology. In terms of business, we want to make sure that you start seeing them on a daily basis flying somewhere or the other. Hopefully that will happen soon. Yeah, please.
Recently,
Last question.
same question the unmanned underwater vehicle team asked me as well. So, yeah, it's exciting that you're doing this. I think just to quickly address this query, one, I think it's very early as far as technology is concerned, and therefore you have that advantage that whatever prototypes also you will create today will be sufficient initially for the end user. But very quickly, you will have to evolve to a level where if you give this, so today you have a prototype, right? Can you give it to somebody else to operate it? Can you? No, right? So the first task is to do that. Because you are not going to be there in the field. Can somebody else operate it? And can he operate it as efficiently as you operate it? After operating, you have to answer the question, can he maintain it as efficiently as you maintain it? After maintaining, you have to ask the question, who will repair it? So, after you address some of these basic queries, to some extent, it's not necessarily address them to like depth, but to some extent where it becomes feasible to give it to somebody at a certain cost. Once you determine that, you should be able to market this product. Right?
Maybe come down to SINE first and then.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, I think I've pushed the envelope too far by being.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions for Vishu and Pete. It's already